Look at this. Caught in the act. We are now watching Noah Rubin put up his wall panels live in real time. This is how we're starting off. We're 36 hours from an Apple event, and this is our content.
Well, I'm gotta get ready. This is, well in advance, but I have to be ready for this Apple event.
That's true. That's
Getting ready
true.
now.
You might as well start early.
Exactly, especially since we have been talking for the past 25 minutes or whatever, and I'm just now 20 minutes, and I'm just now doing this.
That is correct. That is correct. Nobody knew that until you just said it, so you just kind of called yourself out.
Well, we were very busy. We were very deep in our discussions about some interesting things coming up.
Oh yeah, let's just say, look, before we get into this episode, are your notifications turned on for the channel? Because if they're not, you might want to click-a-rooney the little bell. Just saying.
Slap that bell icon. Leave a like.
Slap the bell.
Share.
Crack it. Turn that bell into the Liberty Bell. Just absolutely shatter it.
That's right. Your notifications will still work, so you don't have to worry about accidentally breaking the bell.
Good point. Good point. Glad you brought that up. This is professional. We've really covered all of our bases here. Now, folks, tomorrow is going to be a big day. And yeah, I said tomorrow. I didn't say Tuesday, which is also going to be a big day. Yeah. But tomorrow's going to be pretty nuts. Yeah. We'll talk about this more on the podcast, but yeah, there's this dude, I'm holding my tongue so hard right now. It's really hard not to start blabbing right now. I'm looking at stuff that I just want to talk about and I can't yet.
Yeah, and I don't know this stuff yet either. Luke has not told me yet.
I've completely kept Noah in the dark. Oh, Cole Weathers is here, donating to the Fix Noah's Wall Fund. This is very important work here.
Thank you very much.
At this point, Noah is just sort of taking these funds and pocketing them because clearly he's not putting them into actually improving the wall.
That is true. These are tax deductible donations, but what actually happens to the money is kind of beside the point, let's just say.
Also, look at this. People are already slapping the bell icon. Fantastic. They really are. This is fantastic. A lot of people are actually talking about the video that I just did. What was that? Friday. I posted on the finale of my MacBook project. I've got 20 MacBooks over there that are ready for donation.
Very nice.
And yet somehow even that project pales in comparison to the video that I just made. I really want to just talk. I want to blab. I want to tell you guys so bad, but I got to wait. So if you're listening and you're like, "Hey, old Lukester, what time should I tune in to hear all this stuff that you want to blab about?" Well, that's a great question. 10 a.m. Did you hear that? 10 a.m. Eastern time. 7 a.m. if you're on the West Coast. The worst coast.
I will be waking up bright and early at 7 a.m. No, not actually.
No, Noah won't, because I'm going to tell him what's in the video. But if you are not Noah and therefore don't have, me just like off camera telling you exactly what it is, then you're going to want to set your alarms for 10 a.m. EST. I don't know what that is in your time zone, dear viewer, but you might have to, I don't know, Google that. I wish that there was like a standard time that I could say like it's coming out now. You know what I mean? Although
I think they should. Yeah.
we go live at 9 p.m. my time, so that's 13 hours. Right? 9 p.m. to 10 a.m. is 13 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this right now, if you're live, set your clock for 13 hours. You know, that gives you plenty of time to take a nap, have a rest, wake up bright and early, sunny-nosed and cheery-faced. That's not the saying. What am I?
No.
What's the when you wake up?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
That's it. I wasn't close at all. Not even a little bit. Oh dear.
Absolutely. You could also tune in at 9:50 a.m. Eastern time on my Twitter account, and I will be leaking everything that will be in Luke's video.
No, I'm the leaker is being leaked. I can't believe this. That would actually be the most situationally ironic, like hilarious thing that you could possibly do.
Yeah, honestly.
We got a super chat here. Give a tiny sneak peek for us early peeps. I think I can do that.
That's a fair
request. I can oblige. Yeah. Because we have some serious stuff to talk about. Last week, talking about this event, we were like, oh, I don't know. But there's some stuff to talk about. We've heard about news.
Right.
Noah, have you been plugged into it?
I've seen some rumors. I saw like a Mac Studio rumor and a couple of other things, but I haven't heard too much about it, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of that stuff. I might lean on you heavily, Noah, for getting an idea of like what everyone knows, because I have to make sure I don't accidentally say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting episode. I can tell you that right now.
Yes, because normally it's both of us speculating, but now perhaps
only
it's just
one
me
of us
speculating.
Yeah, it's only you. Well, I mean, okay. There's always stuff to speculate about. Nobody ever, has the .mov file and knows everything that's going to happen.
True. True.
And that's part of the fun of it. That's why I like leaks. No, even people say the leaks spoil the fun. And I get that. I do. If you don't want to have it spoiled, then don't watch my video in 13 hours. But it's never the full picture. And I almost find it fun, perhaps maybe not when I'm the one leaking it, but I always find it fun to like go through and be like, oh, were they right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling it's going to be rather more stressful when it's, oh, was I right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I always find that interesting. See, you like go back after the fact and see, which leaks were right, which ones were wrong, and even which ones are not right yet, but perhaps in the future will come true. I don't know. Kind of fun.
Dude. I just keep looking at stuff that you can't see yet, but you'll be able to see it soon. Oh man. And look, we've already got 183 people here. I guess I warned you all. And okay, I have to say, if we're gonna have a larger audience than usual, I'm not gonna just sit here and like beat around the bush the whole time. I'll tell you what. I'll work it in about 20 minutes into our show. Okay. I'm gonna give you guys an appetizer.
All right.
Something from my video tomorrow that isn't huge, but it's a symbol of things to come. That's what we'll do.
Sounds good.
So Noah, you know what? I know you've got to get going pretty soon afterwards, so I think we should just go ahead and get started, shouldn't we?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, fantastic. Welcome to Drk Mode, the podcast that brings you sage technology advice from two technology experts. And that's not just what we call ourselves, it's what our moms tell people when they also peek at the performance. I'm your host, Luke Miani.
And I'm your host, Noah Rubin. On this show, we take questions from listeners, attempt to answer them to varying degrees of success, and maybe even have a laugh or two along the way. And in this episode, I have quite a few questions, and I think that you might be able to answer them with a very high degree of success, although you may choose not to.
Yes, I mean, right now I'm sort of tiptoeing a fine line between wanting to, with boyish excitement, tell you everything I know, but also trying as hard as I can to withhold this information so that I don't spoil my upcoming media appearance on my channel tomorrow in just 13 hours from the time of this recording.
Certainly. Big day.
But our big story today, obviously, is we are now 36 hours out from the first Apple event of the year. We're talking peak performance. And since we were last here, Noah, we have those event invites. We have that name, Peak Performance. And I think compared to some previous Apple event invites and names that have been fairly innocuous, this one kind of stands out as being different and perhaps a little bit more loaded, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I was really surprised by this because, obviously, more at this point, and there have been some leaks. There have been some leaks that have come out since the event invites, I believe. And then there are obviously some that you're going to have tomorrow. But I was expecting a pretty laid back, a pretty simple event. I was expecting, maybe a Mac Pro, iPhone SE, iPad Air, I think. Yeah. But then when I hear peak performance, and obviously, there's the pun there. You're going to take a look at some performance, right? That really surprised me because it's not what you would expect from an event like the one that I just described.
Exactly, and I think the general consensus, and let me know, chat, if you've had any other impressions from the current news cycle, was basically that we were going to be getting another iPhone SE with A15 and 5G, that we would get an iPad Air also with A15 and 5G, and some Mac, something with an Apple Silicon chip, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from that, we really didn't have a whole lot of an idea of what we were in for. And to be honest, that doesn't sound particularly worthy of peak performance. I mean, if we think back to last year, do you remember the name of last year's spring event?
What was it?
Spring Loaded.
That's right.
And what did we get? We got the iPad Pro, the iMac with the M1 chip, which was, to be fair, a pretty good upgrade, but that was a pretty generic event name. This is not that. I can't imagine. Noah, do you think that the double entendre, peak as in like a sneak peek, but also standing for like the top peak performance, does that sound like an iPhone 8 with an iPhone 13 inside it to you? Because it doesn't to me.
No, someone made the joke, I guess it was on Twitter, that they were like, this is the peak performance that iPhone design will get. Which I thought, because then next year they're gonna redesign it, which I thought was kind of funny. But no, that's I definitely don't think that that's what peak performance means.
Oh man. And okay, I'm going to start you guys off with not a leak, but a ponderance.
Okay.
Perhaps an informed one. Who's to say? We've heard a lot of talk about this event saying iPhone SE, it's the iPhone SE event. Really? Are we sure about that?
That is a good question. I think we would see. Okay, so here's my thought. Now that you say that, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we see an iPhone SE, but at the same time, it doesn't really seem like I'm thinking about like the things that Apple has released via like a press release as opposed to like a full event. And the SE is not something that would get its own event. It's something that would, maybe be talked about for a couple of minutes at an event with other more interesting things.
As far as I'm aware, neither version of the iPhone SE has been given any event time. I'm not 100% on the original one that had the iPhone 5S design, but the 2020 iPhone SE was a press release. There was no event, and it certainly would not have been the focus of an event. So
True.
The idea that peak performance is an iPhone 8 with an A13 in it, I don't buy it.
Yeah, that's maybe it's something that they mention. Maybe because I guess if they're going to release the SE around this time, I feel like they probably mention it in the event. But like, what are they really going to talk about? They're going to say, okay, it's the same great design that we know you all love with a new chip and 5G maybe, or whatever, and that's basically it, right?
Exactly. That's exactly how Apple likes to phrase it. Rather than saying, "Hey, we've recycled an 8-year-old iPhone," they say, "We know you love this." It's like your beloved grandpa. Would you kill your grandpa? No, you wouldn't. You would cherish him. So here, we gave you the same old design as 2017 and 2014 for the most part.
Yep, pretty much.
Whoop, I got fact checked. The original iPhone SE did launch at an event back in 2016. So I guess there's a 50% chance 50% of iPhone SEs have come at events. There you go. But to be honest, like, okay, if the previous iPhone SE didn't need an event, I can't imagine how this one would if it's the same design and a chip we already know and 5G. Like, it's the last iPhone SE was, I think, probably more significant because it had been 4 years since the original iPhone SE. It was a different design. It was then slightly at least relevant. Like I think it would be embarrassing for Apple to have an event where they unveil a 5-year-old phone with a new chip in it and the same tiny battery. What would they talk about? How would they phrase that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that logic extends to definitely the iPad Air, because I don't think that we're expecting basically the same thing, a small spec bump to the iPad Air, new chip, center stage, whatever else. So I think, those are two of the big things we've heard. Even the Mac Mini that's supposed to get M1 Pro and M1 Max. We already know the Mac Mini. It already has Apple Silicon. We already know these better chips that are going into it. So like those were the three sort of main things that I was expecting, and all of them could easily be press releases, or even if they're in the event, I can't imagine that they'd have too much to say about them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a fantastic point. Is when you look at an Apple event, and I would even narrow this down to since COVID, because obviously Apple has kind of shaken things up a little bit with their virtual events. But if we go back through every single one of those events. I don't think there was a single one where it was all just like boring internal refreshes. Like if we start out with 2020 WWDC, we had the Apple Silicon reveal. That's pretty big. If we go to September of 2020, that was the iPad Air, right?
I don't remember, but I believe you.
Yes, because it was the A14. So they introduced the A14 and the iPad Air, and they had that was the Apple Watch as well, and something else I can't remember. But the iPad Air was big. Then in October there was the iPhone. Obviously, that's a major upgrade, the iPhone 12. And then in November, yeah, we had the same designs, but it was the M1 chip. That was obviously huge.
Yeah.
Even then, the spring event, spring loaded, that was mini LED, sort of a minor internal refresh on the iPad, but the iMac was a big change. So that was significant. WWDC software, whatever. And then of course there's the iPhone and then the MacBook Pros. There's just, it doesn't feel like, hey, we made the Mac Mini have M1 Pro in it. Hey, we made the iPad have 5G in it. And hey, we made the iPhone 8 have an iPhone 13 in it. See ya. Enjoy our event with this incredibly misleading title called Spring Loaded. Not Spring Loaded, called Peak Performance. No. I don't buy that. Not for a second, I don't.
Yeah, that definitely, because like Apple has definitely included some less interesting points in their keynotes. I'm thinking about like the new HomePod colors, HomePod mini colors, and the Apple Music voice plan, everyone's favorite plan, that were announced. But those were, those were like little 5 to 10 minute, things that they threw onto the event. Certainly not the main focus there.
And I would imagine that we're going to get that here. Like, regardless of what like cool stuff comes out, there will be undoubtedly 15 minutes dedicated to like, hey, there's a new Apple TV show coming out. That we're also going to push ads to your lock screen that you don't want. It's going to happen.
Yeah. That always
also
happens.
I swear to God, I'm going to have a conniption if one more person points out that it's spelled peak, P-E-E-K, not P-E-A-K. We know it's a double entendre. That's what it's called. The whole point of it is it's like you read it as peak performance, but it's also peak performance. And my hand gestures will go unnoticed for those listening in audio form, but do be rest assured that we are aware of the difference in spelling of those words. So thank you for the 800,000 people who have informed me of this.
Yes, but now because I've been reading the live comments here as we've been talking, and there's an interesting theory that didn't even occur to me, but makes a lot of sense. People are saying, peak maybe implies like the Apple glasses, and I think that makes a lot of no. That was so strong and sudden.
Yeah, there is a chance that could happen, but I would put that on the extremely unlikely spectrum.
Okay. Interesting.
The name of this episode here, I put exclusive in the title. So let me give you some exclusive. I have 3, you could argue 4 confirmed. This is what's coming out. I have 4. And I will say, of those 4, I'll tell you what one of them isn't. Or I'll tell you what None of those 4 are. I'm confusing myself with my verbiage here. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, one thing that you know is not coming, or that your source says is not coming.
No.
No.
I'll tell you, of the 4 things that are in my little mind here, I'll tell you one thing that isn't any of those 4.
Okay.
iPhone SE.
Really?
Does that surprise you?
Kind of, because there's been so many rumors lately about there being a new one, and I feel like they would tack it on to an event. Like, maybe they don't. Maybe it's a press release, but I feel like they would. I don't know.
And now I want to be clear here that when I'm talking about the 4 things, wall panel has bitten the dust. When I tell you about the 4 things that I am thinking of, I'm not necessarily going to make any claims about the scale of those 4 things, but I do want to be clear that I'm not saying that these are the 4 things. It is always possible that there is something else going on. So I'm not necessarily saying no iPhone SE. However, of the things that I am certain of, iPhone SE is not one of them. That would be the distinction.
That is very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible that we could see it. See, I don't know the nature of your source, so I don't know if it's something that maybe you wouldn't expect them. Maybe you would or would not expect them to know about the iPhone SE. Maybe it's like such a small thing that they would or would not know about it. I don't know what that kind of looks like for you. I don't know if you can give any like idea of that, or maybe you can't give that away.
I really want to just blurt out everything for you guys right now. I do. I really do. But I gotta save it, because this is I'm not a leaker, but we are talking about leaks. To make it plain, my video for tomorrow is an exclusive leak. And I do also want to reveal that this has not just been me working on this. It is my leak, but I have been working with Ian Zelbo, with Sam from iUpdate, and with John Prosser on this. So this is not necessarily, me going crazy on my own here. This, I think, is extremely thorough and well vetted. And to answer this question from Ethan in chat, the source is not John Processor, because if John had info, he would release the info. But, man, yeah, there is a lot to talk about with this event, but it is just really, really interesting that I tried as hard as I could. I don't know about the iPhone SE, which was the one thing that everyone said was coming at this event.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that I've heard the most about on like leak discussions and Twitter discussions. So I'm that's the thing that I would expect to be like confirmed, but maybe not.
We've got 200 people here, 245. I feel like I could give you a taster. I'll give you one of the 4 things.
Okay.
This might, I hope that nobody like starts freaking out about this one, because it's not a major thing. And I actually already tweeted it. Whoa. I jumped the gun on this one, but I guess I was a little bit vague about it. So I will I'll come right out and say it. Remember last year when this spring-loaded event started? Do you remember the first thing that they talked about?
Remind me.
Before we got into the HomePod Mini, which I think came out at that event, or the iPad Pro, or the new iMac, they spent like 2 minutes showing off the purple iPhone 12.
That's right.
So they're going to do that again, but it's not purple. You want to take a moment to just guess? What do you think? What color would be good?
Based on, if you say that you had a vague tweet about it, I think I know what the color is. Should I say it?
Yeah.
I think it was green.
You're right. It was specifically, I'll even go as far as to say dark green. Yes. So we've got a couple of people got that right. Midnight green is, I think, a pretty interesting take there. So I don't actually know the name of the color. Like, if you saw the iPad Mini, which I happen to have, you'd say like, oh, it's like a light gold or a off silver, when in fact it's, starlight. So I don't know the name of the color, but think like a shade lighter and a little bit more saturated than the midnight green from the iPhone 11 Pro. That one had a lot of gray in it, a lot of metalliciness. This is more of a flat, dark green.
Interesting. And this is coming to the 13 and the 13 mini, or just the 13?
Yeah, 13 and mini.
Okay, cool.
And so yeah, that is your first little teaser. That's your appetite for tomorrow's video.
Very, very interesting. I could definitely see that one happening, and I think that's a pretty specific leak. Obviously we'll definitely see if that happens on Tuesday, but getting it down to the exact color, it's a pretty good leak.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest thing, but I guess we got to move on, because there was a piece of news that we can discuss, and that is the Mac Studio. You want to discuss your impression? I don't know if you saw the reports or what they discussed, but this is I think that pretty interesting, perhaps separate from the event, but we can talk about the new Mac Studio leak.
Yeah, I honestly, I saw people discussing it. I didn't read too much about it. I heard something about like a studio display as well, maybe to go with that. Is this sort of like a Surface Studio, kind of like a touch display and like a beefier Mac Mini, or is it something different?
Interesting. So, I guess my impression from those reports was that rather than having a Mac Mini with M1 Pro in it and just having it be like Mac Mini but better, they have this new branding for it, Mac Studio. So, this would be, I guess, theoretically, what we were expecting from Apple, which was an upgraded Mac Mini that has the new chips in it. Now the chips are something that I find really interesting, because that's something that I don't know anything about. Nothing. I have no idea what chips are going to be in this.
Interesting. Do you think so? You don't know. My thought would be, M1 Pro, M1 Max, but
Yeah.
I guess there's a chance that it could be something else.
So I guess there's sort of three options that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not mutually exclusive. It could theoretically be all three, but Gurman has been talking a lot about M2. M2 has been making a lot of news. And I suppose it is possible that if we're talking about peak performance, we could be talking about the M2 chip.
True. That is true.
So that is a very interesting concept that we would have to discuss. The other option, I suppose, would be essentially repackaging what we already have for the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros in a bring your own keyboard display mouse form factor.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Basically the same as an M1 Mac Mini, but with this new higher tier of chip. And then the third option, I guess, is whatever is above that.
Right. So that could be maybe the Duo or the Quad or something else. Extreme. We don't know.
Ooh. Now, actually, just before we went live, I was on Twitter and I noticed it seems like the M1 Quad might not be a thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, or M1 Max Quad. Because I think it's important to note we talked back in like November or December, someone did a teardown of the chip and found that there is like a strip that Apple essentially crops out of their press images that many people think could be a bridge for essentially taking two M1 Maxes and combining them into a single processor. But there's no real way to do that four ways. So it seems like the rumored 40 core Apple Silicon chip might not actually be M1 based. That could be fully next gen. Ming-Chi Kuo today saying Mac Pro is not coming out until next year. Which is I don't know, it's pretty interesting. So then you got to wonder, is this Mac Studio higher end than just a Mac Mini with an M1 Pro in it?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it going either way, and I think it really depends. Well, okay, let me put it this way. If the Mac Mini, because before any of this discussion, before any of these rumors, I was expecting that they would take the same chassis, the same body of the Mac Mini, and just stick an M1 Pro and an M1 Max in it. Super simple. They're just, it's one of those puzzle piece products like the iPhone SE and a bunch of other things where they take all these existing parts that they have and they put them together in different ways and they make something new. So that's what I was expecting. But if we're going to get a new name like Mac Studio, then that implies to me if it looked the exact same as the Mac Mini, but it had a different name, I feel like that would be kind of weird and kind of confusing. So now I'm wondering if they're going to give it a different name, I feel like the design should be different. And first of all, you can look at the Mac Mini and we know that the chassis there's a lot of empty space in there and the power supply is overkill for that. And maybe for a more powerful chip, it's a little bit less overkill, but still a very beefy power supply. And then I think I saw some of the rumors included like an interesting. It almost looked like a tiny little Mac Pro, or maybe that was something else. But I saw some rumors like that, so maybe a new design to go with the new name.
Yeah, I think. I mean, first of all of the renders that people have put on their Mac Studio articles are from previous things. It's either most of those were people's renderings of the Mac Pro concept, because we've heard about this like miniature Mac Pro for over a year now. People had there was John Prosser's Mac Mini Pro leak from quite a while ago. And okay, I'm glad you actually brought up the concept of design. because you've accidentally hit the nail on the head.
Interesting.
What if I told you that I have seen the Mac Studio?
I think I would believe you.
What if I told you that I laid my own eyes on the design?
Well, I would ask you a lot of questions about it, but I'm not sure if you'd be inclined to answer at this time.
Look at this. Ian is absolutely aghast at this information. This is brand new information to Renders by Ian, known maker of renders of leaked Apple product designs. How could anyone believe this?
It's a good question. I don't know. You're pretty smug about it. You're pretty you're pretty sure about this one. I don't know.
So yeah, I guess that is as much as I can say. That's what I've been holding in. The exclusive teaser that I promised you guys is you're gonna want to stay tuned on this channel in slightly less than 13 hours because I am going to show you the Mac Studio.
Wow, so that's it's one of the other 4 things, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, I don't even know what to say about this. This has been the past 48 hours have been just nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy. So this is our first confirmation, I guess, if we're going to take your word for it, that the Mac Studio will exist, and I guess it'll have some sort of a distinctive design, but I obviously haven't seen it yet, so we'll have to see.
Indeed. That is an interesting takeaway, Noah. Another thing that I guess I could spoil this, but we were talking about this event on Tuesday being a little bit barren with an iPhone SE and an iPad Air. That's just like that's cannon fodder. Nobody cares about that, right?
Right.
Don't you think that something like a Mac Studio would really juice up an event like that, Noah?
I would think so. I think a new category of Mac could certainly do the trick. I think we could peak some performance out of this new Mac.
Oh my!
I don't
well
know.
Sir.
Thank you.
Oh my! Superb.
Indubitably
indeed. So yes, you're gonna want to keep your eye on the tech news tomorrow because there's gonna be a lot of it. And
Sounds
of course,
like
Ethan in chat here said, "Get ready, Noah, to leak it on Twitter."
Yes, I will mock it up myself based on your specifications, and then I will leak that onto Twitter.
Oh man, he's at it again. He's just looking for lawsuits left and right.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Apple on me this time.
I can't believe this. Oh man, you guys, I am just so excited for I'm really excited for tomorrow. I'm probably also terrified. Absolutely terrified because I've only leaked stuff once before. It was last July. And last July was an interesting set of leaks. Myself, report card on those was somewhat mixed. where I had 3 tidbits. One was spot on, one was kind of half credit, and one was inexplicably wrong. So, I'm just being fully transparent here because I know that I'm not a leaker. I don't have this long list of reports that I come out with all the time. Ethan in chat here, Touch ID SD card, and then also RAM. There was one more. So those are my three leaks. I leaked that the Touch ID would be backlit. It was not. I was wrong on that. I leaked that 32 gigabytes of RAM would be the maximum. I was half right because the information I was given was for M1 Pro because we didn't know that there was going to be, we didn't know that they were going to call them different names ahead of time. So it just seemed like that was the processor, but it turns out it was M1 Pro. So in retrospect, that leak was basically M1 Pro is limited to 32 gigabytes of RAM. So that one is sort of like a partial credit. And then I did also leak UHS 2 SD card, and that one was spot on. The new MacBooks do have that. And that is why it's weird, nerve-wracking to do leaking, which I am not experienced in because I have credible information from the same place, and one of it is wrong and one of it is spot on with verified legitimate info.
Right.
I should point out, to answer this comment, this is not the same source as the previous stuff. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, the thing that I find interesting, or I guess one of the main differences here is, those leaks in July were for this MacBook Pro, that came out months later, right? And obviously things like the Touch ID backlight could have been true at one time. And we've talked about this before where things are true at some time and then a decision is made and plans change. And maybe it'll come back in the future, maybe it won't. But these leaks are so close to the event, right? This is not months out. This is, and maybe the information came earlier. I honestly don't know. But like, you're getting this information. You've got this information very close to the event, right? You just got it, recently, right?
Yes.
Right. And
okay,
so now,
I will say, if we're talking about credibility here, and I understand that is a big deal, the thing that we're losing wall panels left and right. Oh no!
I need to replace the tape on these things. I think it's time for that.
I definitely agree. Eventually, there will be so much tape residue on the wall that you won't actually be sticking it to the wall anymore. You'll just be sticking it to that residue.
This whole wall will be gray instead of white.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. But it's also only a matter of time before we find out if I was right. And I have to say, that's a bit of a relief, but also very stressful because with the MacBook Pro stuff, right? I was leaking that information in July, and they didn't come out until mid-October. So a lot of people forgot about that. And I didn't try to hide the fact that I was wrong on some things, and we had a checklist of like my leaked info before we went into that event. But with this particular one, it's going to be a lot harder for it to people are not going to forget about something that they saw 24 hours before the event.
That is definitely true. This is right before the event. It will be fresh in everyone's minds. It will be, I guess, on our bingo board as well as we're watching the event. So certainly.
Oh man, dude, our bingo board is going to be insane. Oh my gosh. Because that's the other thing is I have, with a big leak like what I'm dropping tomorrow, there are some things that you can be really confident on, and there are other inferences that you can make with information that aren't like, you can't really be sure because it's not like this is what I'm looking at. You're like, huh, so this must mean that. And it's harder to publish a leak that's based on an inference. So what I'm talking about are very, very concrete things. But for our bingo board, there are other inferences that we can make, that we can include on that bingo board, because that's more of a predictive type of thing rather than, me putting my name out there and saying, I, Luke Miani, am saying this.
Yeah, that's true. There's definitely a difference between things that you've actually seen and things that you can infer based on what you've seen or what you've heard.
Exactly.
So, definitely.
Exactly. Now, there is also this comment here saying, any info on the lower cost XDR display? I don't know. 13 hours from now, you might know whether or not I know any more about that.
Very interesting, because I did hear something about a studio display in some of those rumors, and so I don't know if we'll hear anything about that. Maybe we won't.
Curious. One thing that I know nothing about is chips. So we can talk about that as much as we want, because I am really, I'm just kind of confused. We talked about it earlier with like the tagline, peak performance. I just find it really weird if we're talking about new products but not new chips, because the inclusion of performance would seem to imply that there is something new, a peak at something new.
Yeah, definitely, because of the double entendre. It's not just that some devices are getting more performance or even reaching, like I said, that joke about like reaching the peak of their performance. We have to see something new involving the chips. That's the only thing that peak performance, with that pun, that's the only thing that it can mean, is that we're seeing some kind of a new chip.
Right? I mean, it just I usually don't like to read too much into Apple event taglines or invites. People are always analyzing the colors and like the little details or the AR video or the name, and oftentimes there's not really much there. Spring Loaded is a perfect example. That was last year's spring event. That told us nothing more than the fact that it was spring at the time. Like it wasn't a ton of interesting stuff to unpack from that.
Yeah, I mean, that was, obviously just another pun, spring loaded, and the event was supposedly loaded with things to come. But like the word performance is such an important word for Apple these days. And the other thing is, when you hear performance, or at least when I hear performance, I think less about like an M2 and more about like a Pro or a Max version of that, because like the base chips aren't, obviously the performance is there, but I feel like Apple focuses more on the battery life and the no fans and all of that stuff. So obviously, performance could refer to that, but when I hear like peak performance, it really means like those pro level chips to me. So I don't know.
And dude, can we just say for a minute, if having two M1 Max chips is a thing that can happen, I think it's very possible that could be something that we don't hear leaks about in advance. Like, it has been speculated, and we had that little strip on the M1 Max die. Like there's reason It's not just like smoke and mirrors. There's reason to think that, but we haven't heard someone saying like Apple releasing 2 M1 Max chips in a single computer. We haven't heard that said. But most of the leaks that you hear about come from the supply chain. So that's why we have stuff like, the M1 Pro, that one leaked. We had the cores and the GPU cores, and we had all that information because it's something that's physical in a factory somewhere. But if you think about it, 2 M1 Max chips in a single computer is not necessarily something that would be easily picked up because it's not manufacturing a new chip. It's 2 of the same chip. We wouldn't necessarily hear about a new, like it wouldn't qualify technically as a new chip. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it would be 2 existing chips, and I guess the new thing would just be the bridge that connects them, the ribbon cable or whatever it is that connects the 2 of them together.
Yeah. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. And I mean, that's the thing that I'm holding out the most hope for. As you'll see in my video tomorrow, I've got lots of info for you. But that's the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, is that tagline has to mean something. I mean, go back to October. October was Unleashed. And then we had the Apple logo with the speed lines, right? And the blue, it was like a predominantly blue color scheme.
Yeah.
And that blue was the M1 Pro, right? They had that blue text and like that blue motif was there, right? So that was a clear connection.
Yeah.
And Unleashed, I think, was pretty clearly referring to unleashing these new processors and the new MacBooks. That's a pretty direct line of sight.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And then,
but then yeah, go on.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, and then like when you hear performance, that's even like you cannot get any more direct than performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
The least subtle thing that they could put in there. And I just don't see, like, why would they have Unleashed? I feel like if this is going to be the same chips, I would almost have switched the names around. I would have called October Peak Performance and this Unleashed.
That's true. Yeah, because these chips are like, the maybe they're the peak performance of the M1 generation, and then you're fully unleashing the power by sticking 2 of them together, maybe. So I could that makes sense.
That's fair. That's valid. There's so much that we don't know. There's so much that you don't know that I do. And there's so much that you are all going to find out very soon. Oh man. I think, you know what, Noah? I think we might honestly end this episode a little bit early, because I can't think of anything to say without spilling all of the beans. And I mean, if you think about it, we're going to be back here in like 36 hours.
Yeah, it'll be bright and early for me on Tuesday morning.
Oh gosh, yeah. What is that? Well, it's 10 a.m. your time, right?
Yeah, so we'll be
But
on
we go
at
live
9
at 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is pretty bright. Are you going to be bushy-eyed and summer-tailed? What was it?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, that's it. That's going to be you.
That will be... I will certainly, as tired as I may or may not be, I will certainly be very excited for this event.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I think, honestly, we're going to have a lot... Once I get everything out in the open tomorrow morning, which, by the way, I still have to edit this video, which is another reason why I think we should head out a little bit early.
Okay.
I got to edit this thing. And once it's all out in the open, we're going to have a lot to talk about on Tuesday morning. And in fact, look at this. We got we got Sam here in the chat. It's a curious coincidence that Sam, coverer of Apple leaks, would take interest in this particular little moment. Did you know that I happen to occasionally write for Apple Track, which Sam runs?
It's interesting. I might have heard about that, but I don't think I've read any of your stuff.
Yeah, it's almost as if we'll see you tomorrow. Interesting. Right. Well, yeah. Okay. We gotta end the episode. I'm sorry. We're ending it early because I can't stop myself from telling Noah everything that I know. And if I go for another 10 minutes, I'm going to spill all of the beans all over you guys as well. So you're just going to have to wait until, well, we're coming up on 12 hours here, 10 a.m. Eastern time. 12 hours from now, we are going to have some real big stuff for you guys. Expect Sam to have some stuff. I will say, John Prosser is making a video on my leak, if that gives you any idea of its magnitude and its credibility. You can find us here on YouTube an hour before the actual Apple event goes live. We're going to be doing bingo, right, Noah?
That's right. We'll get the new design up for the bingo board, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we are, I mean, I'm going to be kind of sweating buckets, but we're going to have a lot to talk about before that event and during and after.
Definitely.
So thank you guys so much for joining us this week. I have been your co-host, Luke Miani.
And I have been your co-host, Noah Rubin. We will see you very soon, and have a good night.
I'm going to see you guys real soon. You're going to love it. Take care.